nasty day here in Kansas City, and I had plans to go out and in fact shoot downtown, shoot the whole city, get lots of amazing footage, and edit some sort of like Kansas City video together. That was gonna be my vlog, but since it's so nasty and today's my vlog day, it's Friday, I think I'll talk about color grading, because color grading is something I am no expert on, but I just want to share my process. I shoot most on the C100, and I do shoot it in C-Log, and C-Log is kind of a more flat color profile, and so it definitely does need post work. Some cameras, if you shoot in a different picture profile, you can get away without doing much. I still like to use film emulations in some way, shape, or form, which just take the harsh and vibrant colors of the in-camera color processing and just turn them into more warm and rich and delicious kind of film colors. And so the collection of LUTs I most work with, I believe I bought them from Denver Riddle and Color Grading Central. They take the pixels from your camera's picture profile and just change the colors pixel by pixel enough to make it look like traditional film stocks. So for example, in this project from last year, we had some Inspire footage from the Inspire 1. So this clip right out of the camera, you know, it definitely needs some work. It looks fine coming right out of the Inspire, which is the Inspire 1, not the new 2. But the colors are very vibrant and it's kind of flat. So what I would do first on a clip like this is actually use some sort of color tool. This is an older color tool, the 3-way color corrector in Premiere. But I would just turn that on, and I would actually take this slider right here, push the blacks just a little bit, give it some more of that good looking contrast. And I think I actually did a little bit of actual correction before you get into grading if you do have some problems. Yeah, it looked a little warm, so maybe like cool it down just a little bit before you go for the grade. Once you get this to where you like it, that's when I would use almost either a nested footage or an adjustment layer. So here we have the color corrected clip. We've pushed the blacks just enough to give it some contrast without crushing anything. We've corrected some of the color temperature. It was a little bit warm, so I cooled it down just gently in the midtones with the 3-way color corrector. Now I want to take this good looking image right here, these good looking colors, but they're still too vibrant for me. They're too video for me. And so we're going to put a film LUT on top of it. So we go into our Lumetri Color plugin, which is the Premiere way of pulling up input LUTs. So before I even put it on, I even did some further correcting here, bumped the exposure just a little bit and gave it a little more saturation, because when you push your blacks down or bring your highs up, you can actually lose saturation. And again, with super compressed footage in most prosumer level cameras that you'll probably be working with, you can't push it too hard, because if you go too hard in contrast, you'll lose the image and you'll get all sorts of nasty grain. So I've added a little bit of saturation here, bumped the exposure just a little bit to bring it up, make it a little more bright. So then we go right here into the input LUT category, and we'll browse our collection of lookup tables or LUTs that are those film emulations I talked about. The Inspire 1, I didn't have LUT specifically designed for that, so I just used what I had here, and many times you have to do that, and I found that it looked actually pretty good. So you can look through all these different types of film emulations. So the one I chose here was the C100, was this Kodak Ultramax film emulation. And there's 4 different iterations for each of these, and they're just different types of exposure, different types of film. We're going to choose the FC one, which is usually a lot of contrast, and you can see right away, this image is now totally dark and filmic. And in fact, that was almost, I love this look, but it's almost too much for me. So what I want to do is just dial back the opacity of this adjustment layer to, let's say, 75. And right there, I think we've got a pretty good looking image of this truck moving through the American streets. It looks like more filmy. So side-by-side comparison here, I'm going to bump this out so we can just look at this side by side with this thing full screen. So this is color corrected, straight out of the Inspire, but still pretty video-y. Add the LUT, and it looks like film. It warms it back up in a really rich way instead of kind of a nasty way. Before and after, before and after. Same project, we're looking at the human face this time, how to make an interview look good using color grading. So for this one, here is the shot right out of the camera. And this is, it looks kind of warm. It looks really video-y. It just doesn't look good. This was, again, the YDR color profile in the C100. Cool interview angle. Lighting is good. All that's good. But we definitely need to do some color work. So we'll start on top with that 3-way color tool. And really all this is going to do is just brighten this thing way up. I wanted it a lot brighter than we shot in the camera. And instead of risking clipping there, I was just going to brighten it in post. But again, it's not too far. You don't see a lot of grain doing this. And then when you brighten that much, you're going to have to do some saturation, because this level of brightness is going to desaturate the image. So I'm going to pump this way up and just try to get that rich, even though it's still that video color, that rich color back. Here's a little comparison. That's how the saturation looked out of the camera. With the brightening and saturation, that's what we look like now. So now we got to fix these nasty colors. And so we'll pull up the curves. And I really cooled this down because I know the LUT I was going to use was going to warm it back up. So I took the reds, pulled them down to a point where I liked that, even pulled the greens down just a little bit, and actually boosted the blues as well up in the highs. And that gave it more of a cool, more balanced look. It's almost on the cool end. Finally, we have the Lumetri color plugin. We'll turn that on. Whoops. And we're going to use the same C100 YDR Kodak Ultramax and see what happens here. Turn on the plugin, and there we go. That is a much more filmy, warm again. The blacks are deep and down there, but they're not crushed. Bump saturation down here as well. Even brought the blacks down, and that's kind of how I got to that image that I like. So here we go. Full screen. This is going to be the before and after. This is kind of an extreme example, but I just liked what the end product was. So here's right out of the camera. Do kind of a brighten it up, saturate it a little bit, balance the color, and apply the LUT. And that's our final kind of film looking image right there. So it really boils down just to that. It's as simple as correcting the color and the image using the tools in your nonlinear editor, whether you're in Final Cut or Premiere or Media Composer or something like that. And once you get the image where you like it, apply a LUT, put one on top. Use an adjustment layer if you're in Premiere. Sometimes, I don't know if Final Cut does that, but I know in Final Cut you can just put LUTs right on the clip without using a separate plugin. Premiere, you put the Lumetri color plugin on an adjustment layer, and that way you have a lot more control over the LUT itself, and you don't have to worry about doing it clip by clip. Get all the clips matched so they look really good together, which can be a challenge. So let me know how you do your color grading as a freelance filmmaker. Are you in Premiere? Are you using the same tools I'm using? Do you use anything different that I should be aware of? What kind of cameras do you use? What kind of success or failure have you had trying to mess with color in camera and different compressions in the camera? Let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.